And I think, one thing is I've done a lot of different things in real estate. And I think it's important not to have shiny object syndrome and start chasing different stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
But it's important to realize the opportunities that present themselves and take advantage of them and not be afraid to take action on them because it's not in your narrow view of what you were going for. I was driving around my truck sending postcards through Deal Machine and I could have easily said, like, I have no idea how to buy an apartment complex, so and pass on that. But we didn't do it. And 2 years later, I think we've built almost $3 million worth of equity into those apartment complexes and cash flowed 100 grand a year.
If you have a deal like that, you put together a pitch deck. And what are some of the things you're looking for? The investors are looking for these syndications.
I think one thing I learned is that you should probably have, again, that SEC lawyer is going to be the most important person on your team, and he should be local.
Tell me too, Jake, because you said you have a thing for attracting, high level talent. Why do you think that is? Like, is there anything you can point to that why you believe you are really good at doing that?
I think there's a couple things maybe that help with that. And one is being really, really clear about your core values as a company, and putting a lot of effort into that in the beginning when we're hiring. And so, our number one core value is that we put people before profits and we lead with a servant's heart. So that is when we're working with our sellers, we're trying to do the best by them, but also internally within our company, we're trying to serve each other. So I believe that my role as a leader is to serve my employees and try to find out what motivates them, what their goals are, and try to help them reach their goals. And by doing that, then they're going to help our company reach our goals. And so it's easy if you're not really intentional about your core values. Sometimes it's easy to hire a person that is like a rock star, and they're going to crush it, but they're going to poison your team. And
we all know someone like that.
Yeah, and this last round of hiring, when we were looking for a new acquisition manager, we interviewed a bunch of people, and there was one guy that we interviewed who was a super experienced salesman, and I knew he was going to be really good, but he just wasn't quite the right fit for core values, right? And so it would be easy to hire that guy if you weren't really intentional about your core values, and then you come to regret it 6 months later when everybody's pissed off because all he cares about is himself.
How do you test it, Jake? How are you testing that with the clients, or not clients, but the employees or the applicants before they start?
We do a few things. One, I have to put checks on myself because it's too easy for me to make impulsive decisions and just hire people that sound good and that I like. And so they go through a couple stages of a process. So first is they have a conversation with me. That's really for me to, it sounds bad, but it's almost like a sales call for me to sell them on the company, right? And I want to get them fired up about the position. I want to talk about our core values. I want them to know who we are, and I want them to be really interested in it, and believe in us. And if they're not, if that's not a fit on the first call, then they're definitely out, right? Mm-hmm. But then it's going through a process to verify that they're going to be a good fit. And I'm not in charge of that because honestly, I think I'm probably pretty bad at it. Because I'm going to be attracted to the person who I just like, and I'm going to be impulsive. So they definitely go through the PI profile, predictive index. And then they also then go through a second round of interviews with Kelsey, who I think it does a better job than me of discerning whether or not they're going to be a good fit for our core values. And then they can come back around to me and we'll have another conversation and just kind of verify things. But I think spreading out the decision over time and having multiple people talk to them, and then putting them through some sort of personality profile test is super important.
Yeah. Can you explain REI Sift for everyone that might not know watching?
Yeah, for sure. So sometimes REI Sift's a little hard to explain of like what it actually is. So I think that the heart of it is a data management platform, right? So you put all of your data into it, and then you're able to tag it and put it into lists so that you can organize it and get a lot of clarity around your data and know where your data is coming from and where it's going to. It also has some great integrations with different software platforms, whether Zapier to do whatever you want, but also direct integrations with call tools and REI Reply, I think, and things like that. So there's more and more people using REI Sift as a standalone CRM as well. Pretty high level people are using it as a CRM, and I think where they're going with REI Sift in the next 6 to 12 months is it's going to be pretty cool. And I think a lot of people, especially if you're starting out or running a smaller team, it might be on the short list for what you should use, not just for data management, but for a CRM as well. Even though we don't.
Because it also right, doesn't it also like integrate directly with a couple like phone systems inside, right? So you
it integrates with AirCall, which is a really good phone system, really easy to use, and so you can click to dial, within REI Sift, and a lot of people are doing that as well. But we use it just as the way to manage our marketing and to organize all of our marketing. So whether that's direct mail campaigns or cold calling campaigns, it's all coming directly from REI Sift, and we can track how many times we've called people. We can track what numbers are good, what numbers are bad. We can track how many times we've skip traced people and put them through a flow, so that we're maximizing our marketing dollars and not just like blasting out high equity lists.
Tell us what your executive assistant's doing, how you lay out a plan for her or him.
Sure.
All that good stuff.
So I think one thing to start with is that for my executive assistant, I decided to use a recruiting agency. So I used Darren Carr with Carr Talent to find my EA. And I committed that this person's going to make, a pretty hefty salary, and I didn't want to go like the VA route or the virtual route. I actually wanted her to be, in the office with me. I think one of the big things I do is that she has 100% access to my email inbox, which a lot of people would be kind of scared about, and like, really you have to trust somebody just to turn over a whole bunch of access to someone. But I think if you're going to have an effective EA, you really need to have someone that you trust completely, that you can really turn things over to. And so she's processing my email box, and then we use ClickUp. I think you guys use Asana, same kind of thing. So she's taking my email inbox and converting it into to-do lists and tasks, and archiving things. And so that was the turning point for me to know that I needed an EA when I stopped being able to respond to emails in a timely fashion.
I know we talked about it earlier, but you said before you even got into doing deals, you were building bank relationships. What was it like? How did that conversation go to like start building those relationships with these banks?
I think part of it is a mindset shift. So in the beginning, I was really scared to have these conversations, right? Yeah. Because bank is this big, powerful thing, and they've got the biggest building in town, and you think that you'd be lucky if they give you something. But the reality is that they're there to sell money. And if you don't walk in the door, they're out of business. And so I think it was an important mindset shift to say, they need me more than I need them. And once I had that shift, then I could walk in there with confidence and talk about what I wanted to do and my plan and I mean, part of it was knowing what I was talking about, right? I had done my research. I knew what I was talking about. Even though I hadn't done a deal yet, I didn't walk in there and sound like an idiot, right?
Yeah, you knew all the Bigger Pockets podcasts.
Yes, I've memorized them, right? But I had an actual plan for what I wanted to do, and it was really, I was just talking about the BRRRR strategy. I just wasn't using those terms because they didn't know what BRRRR was, right? What I found was that the first conversation went okay, but I just kept going from bank to bank to bank. And by the end of it, I was having really, really good conversations with people, and those banks were fighting for my business. because they probably get a lot of idiots that walk through their doors asking for money. And so if you can come in and know what you're talking about, and have an actual business plan together, they want to sell you money. And so at a certain point, I started playing them off of each other and saying, hey, this other bank's going to give me X term and rate for this. What can you do? And I'm just negotiating against them.
I love
I'm
it.
trying to get the best rates and terms that I can. And I still do that, right? I'm always shopping for better rates and terms. I'm always developing new relationships with banks, and I'm very transparent about it too. Like I'm not hiding it. The banking relationships I haven't burned any bridges, I hope, with any of those guys. I still go back to them. I'll still refer business to them. I'll get those bankers send me a text message. Thank you so much for referring so-and-so to me. No, I'm not using him anymore. I know, that bank is a good fit for this person and that investor, whatever. And so, being transparent, being honest, but also just having the confidence to say, hey, I know there's somebody out there that can give me a better rates and terms. So, yeah. And you level up over time, right? So the bankers that I'm talking to nowadays are giving me 30-year fixed debt at low interest rates on our refis. Mm-hmm. We're going to refi out in the next couple of months, like $640,000 out of our rentals.
Oh, that's nice.
And that wouldn't have been possible 2 years ago. I didn't have those relationships 2 years ago. I didn't have the experience. I didn't have the track record. But I got the best that I could at the time and did it, and then constantly looking to build better relationships with lenders over time.
You was asking what are some good questions to ask lenders?
I think one, using their language, right? And this is something that kind of you learn over time, but there's a little bit of kind of inside baseball and lenders, and being able to talk to them on their level is helpful. And I mean, you got to kind of fumble through some bad conversations in the beginning, I think, to understand that. But I would ask them questions about, these rates and terms that you're giving me. Is this a portfolio loan? Or are you going to go sell this on the secondary market? Right? And now that's kind of getting behind the curtain of what a bank does. And it lets them know that you know what you're talking about. But it also gives you an important insight into what they can offer you, right? So the kind of lenders who can go sell on the secondary market, which is called CBMS, so commercial backed mortgage securities, and I can't remember what it stands for. That's
probably about right.
But they're selling it on the secondary market. They're creating notes, and then they're selling those notes. It's almost like wraps, right? But on the lender level. So they can give you way better rates and terms if they're selling that debt on the secondary market, as opposed to if they're keeping it in-house as a portfolio loan.
Gotcha.
Because now they've got to underwrite it to, well, we can't mitigate our risk by selling off part of this debt. So that's how I've leveled up over time, is trying to find those relationships with people who are selling their debt on the secondary market, because they can give you way cheaper stuff.